Good morning, children. Good morning, children. Yesterday we were discussing about respiration, and we have discussed in little bit superficially about how respiration takes place in animals like fishes and amphibians. You have learned in the lower classes like animals starting from reptiles, birds, mammals. All these animals, they are going to breathe through the lungs. We say lungs are the main respiratory organs. Today we are going to discuss about how respiration takes place in human beings. Respiration in human beings. The mechanism of respiration, it is important for us to know about the parts that are involved in human respiratory system. So let us take the parts involved in the human respiratory system. We begin with nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, lungs. You are going to learn in little bit detail about these parts now. The nose. When we take up the nose, you know that there are two external nasal openings. We call them as nostrils. The nostrils open into a chamber. It is called nasal cavity. The speciality of this nasal cavity is, it is provided with hairs. Then when I explain you about the mechanism, I will brief about what is the importance of nasal cavity. The nasal cavity will open into a chamber. It is called pharynx. In the pharynx, we say it is one common passage for both the respiratory and the digestive tract to pass through it. Then the pharynx will lead into the next part. It is called larynx, where the pharynx is going to open into the larynx. There is one flap of tissue, connective tissue called epiglottis. Then the larynx, another special feature of the larynx is, you must have heard that it is also given the name voice box. The sound that is produced by us, it is mainly because of the vocal cords that are present in the larynx. Then the next respiratory passage, it is called trachea. It is also known as windpipe. The speciality of the trachea is, the trachea is supported by a cartilaginous ring. That is why it is not going to get collapsed easily. The trachea divides into two parts. It is called bronchi. The singular form of it is bronchus. Then the bronchi will enter into the lungs. Lungs means they are a pair of pinkish elastic bags. Then the lungs, they are provided by one protective membrane called the pleural membrane. So, in between the membrane, there is a fluid. It is called pleural fluid. This pleural fluid is going to give protection for the lungs as the lung is going on expanding and contracting. So, in order to reduce the friction of that, the pleural fluid is very, very important. Then, inside the lungs, the bronchi, they are going to branch further. Finally, the end of the bronchioles, they will terminate into air sacs called alveoli. So alveoli, they are the we can regard this alveoli as the functional units during the respiratory system. So this is in brief about the parts of the human respiratory system. Now let us know how exactly the mechanism of respiration takes place. Mechanism of respiration. Now, in the mechanism of respiration, we say that there are two important stages. It is called breathing and cellular respiration. Now, let us know how this process of breathing is initiated. Firstly, we say whenever we have to breathe, this diaphragm, there is one structure called diaphragm which is going to separate the thoracic and the abdominal cavity. Abdominal cavity. The diaphragm plays a very important role in the mechanism of respiration. First, the diaphragm comes down. When the diaphragm comes down, we say the ribs are also provided with a special kind of muscles called intercostal muscle. The ribs will also expand. As the diaphragm is coming down, we say the space in the chest cavity increases. So, when we breathe in air, when the air is taken, first it will come to the nasal cavity. Then in the nasal cavity, it is provided with hair-like structures. The function of this hair-like structures is to filter the air. For example, dust particles get filtered, and there is also one mucus that is secreted there. The mucus is also going to filter some bacteria that may be present in that. Then from the nasal cavity, the air will come to the pharynx. When the air comes to the pharynx, I told there is a respiratory passage at the back. Then it enters the respiratory passage. Then from the pharynx, it has to come to the larynx. Before it comes to the larynx, we say there is one connective tissue called epiglottis. That epiglottis will be always kept open because continuously we will be breathing. By chance, if the epiglottis is not open, means we say then what happens is then air cannot pass through that. So always the epiglottis will be kept open only. Then from the pharynx, the air will come to the larynx. Then from larynx it comes to the trachea. When it comes to the trachea is also made up of small hair-like structures. So it will be almost like brushing type. It will be moving, and further some particles are there, means that will not be allowed to pass through. Then from trachea, the air will come to the bronchi. Then from bronchi, it will enter the lungs. In the lungs, we have this alveoli. So now, what happens is, when the air enters the alveoli, then the lungs will also be expanded. Then the alveoli speciality is, it is supplied with rich supply of blood vessels. So there is blood containing in that alveoli. The exchange of gas will take place, and all these things, it is going to happen so fast. After the blood absorbs oxygen, then immediately through the blood, the oxygen will be taken to different parts of the body, and at the same time, even carbon dioxide that is released, it has to come to the blood only. Then now the diaphragm, which has come down, it will be again pushed upwards. When the diaphragm is pushed upwards, we say the chest cavity becomes less now. That means there is a sort of pressure created there. So due to that, the carbon dioxide will be expelled out. Now, one more interesting feature in human beings is, see, only by diffusion, the oxygen cannot be supplied to all parts of the body because our body structure is so large. So, we are all fortunate. Our blood contains one respiratory pigment. It is called hemoglobin. This hemoglobin is called, it is having a greater affinity towards oxygen. Affinity means attraction. So, when in the blood, because of this hemoglobin, actually this hemoglobin is there in the red blood corpuscles. You will know about this red blood corpuscles when we take up circulatory system. So, now the oxygen will combine with the hemoglobin and it will form oxyhemoglobin. Now, this oxyhemoglobin is there to supply oxygen to each and every cell and tissue of the body. Now, I will just give you another example. Suppose we have to get oxygen only through the process of diffusion, means experts have found out that for one molecule of oxygen to reach from our lungs to our toe, it takes 3 years, it seems. So, there is no question of us for us to lead our life comfortably. So, we have to be thankful for this respiratory pigment, oxyhemoglobin. So, that is achieved. How the fast movement of this oxyhemoglobin is achieved means blood circulation is also taking place in our body continuously. So, along with the blood, the oxyhemoglobin is going to supply oxygen to our body so that we are able to live a comfortable life. Now, to conclude about this mechanism of respiration, first we started with the breathing process. Now, let me introduce these two terms. In breathing, we say there are two important steps, that is inspiration and expiration. Inspiration means the process of taking in air. Then expiration means the process of giving out air. So, only for breathing you cannot say respiration part is over. After the oxygen is absorbed, it has to be taken into every cell and tissue of the body. Now we call this next step as cellular respiration. So, during cellular respiration, the oxygen will reach the mitochondrial region of the cell. There, the food substance get combined with oxygen and energy is released in the form of ATP molecules. So, respiration means we have to remember these two steps, breathing and cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is also called tissue respiration. Only when these two they are taking simultaneously, they are going on simultaneously, then the respiratory cycle will be completed. Now, one caution about this lungs. Lungs are the main respiratory organs. It is important for us to see that our lungs are not spoiled. That's why always, or in advertisements or in many places you have seen, smoking is injurious to health. Smoking is injurious to health means the cigarette contains a harmful substance of tobacco called nicotine. So, this harmful substance, when it reaches the lungs, it is going to destroy the alveoli. Then similarly, because of this purpose only, always it will be mentioned, smoking is injurious to health. Another thing, you might have seen some people chewing tobacco. Chewing tobacco is also bad because tobacco chewing leads to mouth cancer. So not only this chewing tobacco, even smoking is also bad, because that smoke is going to cause a problem to the lungs. That's why even we are not supposed to stand beside a person who is smoking, and government has also issued orders smoking is prohibited in public places. Because that nicotine is a carcinogen. Carcinogen means it is a... I was telling you about the dangerous condition of using cigarette or smoking cigarette. I told the cigarette contains a harmful substance called tobacco. That tobacco has a substance called nicotine. This is very, very harmful to our body. Therefore, smoking and chewing tobacco both are harmful to us. So we have to enlighten this with everybody. So nobody will take the chance of becoming a chain smoker or anything. Otherwise means our health will be definitely, it is going to get spoiled. This will complete about human respiration. Thank you.